without even reading the title of the episode, it's very clear that this is a Machina party. I am wearing my original Machina t-shirt from back then. Yes, I have a bunch of CDs up here that are not only Machina, but the B-sides and some stuff that we'll talk about in a little bit, concert tickets, and then, of course, the video I made recently about getting the new Machina Irania Alba Editio edition, which is putting all of the songs together in one 48-track record run. So, yeah, all signs pointing to, let's talk about Machina, the Machines of God, the last studio album to come out from the Smashing Pumpkins in the year 2000, February 29th, 2000 from Virgin. And it's the last one before the band splits up and then goes through a bunch of different iterations until they kind of all come back. Well, the original four has never been back together since then. Wait a second, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're still at the intro of the show. We haven't done the theme song. I haven't told you about DistroKid. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just so excited to talk about it. I was thinking to myself, hey, you should definitely talk about Machina, the Machines of God, on your show because it seems very timely. You've been listening to it a ton right now, and maybe your audience wants to do more of an in-depth look at this album. So it is time to talk about the Smashing Pumpkins, Machina, the Machines of God. Let's go.
Things are going to change. I can feel it.
If this gonna be that kind of party, I'm gonna...
Waterproof Records. Waterproof Records. Waterproof Records with Jacob Gibbons.
Machina, Machina, Machina. And yes, you might be sitting here going, wait a second. I thought that word was pronounced Machina. And when I made that video, a lot of people came in and corrected me and said, hey, that word,
Deus ex machina.
Machina, is that's how you say that word. And I was like, hey, look, I'm sorry. It's been Machina since the Smashing Pumpkins released this album. That's what Billy Corgan calls it. That is the official pronunciation from the band. And that's just because he does things the way he wants to. And he wanted to say Machina. And I think that, honestly, the album has a machine-like sound to it. And I think it's fitting. So I know that you people who want to come along and correct spelling or pronunciation of words. But sorry, that's the way it's been for 25 years. It's still Machina, the Machines of God. And we're only going to be talking about Volume 1, Machina, the Machines of God. We're not going to get into Machina II, the Friends and Enemies of Modern Music. We'll talk, I'll reference about what that one's all about in this episode, but we'll do a whole episode on that because it is its own body of work. And of course, it's covered in this collection. But I do need to talk about DistroKid because DistroKid's going to save you 30% of your first year of uploading music. My son just recently came to me and he said, hey, I really want to get my stuff out there on streaming. Can I use your link? And I was like, of course you can use my link because I'm going to be the one paying for it. Are you kidding me? I'll save myself 30% off of my son's music being uploaded on all the platforms, the Spotify's, the Apple Music, YouTube Music, and any other streamers that are out there. It's definitely the best way for you to get your music online immediately so people can hear about what you're working on. And I'm excited to upload my very own son's music to the streaming services so he can start sharing because he does write his own music and he's very, very great, very talented. So check it out, distrokid.com/VIP/waterproof. Get yourself 30% off. The link is in the description of the YouTube. And I link it all over the place, like in my link tree and all that stuff. So make sure you're saving yourself that money. Okay, we covered the bases. We did the intro song. We did the DistroKid. Now we can get into Machina, the Machines of God. This album, wow, it is a wild story as to what leads us to the band releasing this and just the 25-year journey of getting remixed, remastered versions of the songs, the trouble that Billy Corgan had to go through in order to get his hands on these from record label rights and legalities and losing masters. The record company had lost a lot of the original recordings and they've had to try to track them down. So it really goes to show you that back then, when a company started to move away from an artist or not give them as much respect as they deserved, look at what ended up happening with a lot of these master tapes and copies of things. It just became a low priority and got lost in the shuffle. And thankfully, I think they've been able to track a lot of it down, but there is definitely some original stuff that's missing. So when you buy this collection, a lot of these are, the best they could do given, we have this one vocal take or we have this one drum loop or whatever. And they had to work on it and cobble it together. And it took a very, very long time. I think that he said he wanted to do a remastered edition by the time it was like 2012. And then the official announcement of like, I've signed the paperwork to do it was in 2015. So it took 10 years to get where we are. So we've all been waiting for this for a very, very long time. But before this came out, we only had Machina, the Machines of God, which I said released on February 29th. I wear contact lenses, and when I'm starting to have a problem now with text, so it looks like I'm up for a prescription. Hey, talking about Smashing Pumpkins, Machina, the Machines of God, and talking about how my old ass eyes are. So I'm definitely showing you guys I am getting older, and my eyes aren't working as well. So if you see me squinting over at this text over here, February 29th. So it was released on a leap year day. I don't think I remembered that. It was released by Virgin. And the way that this album comes to be, it's, if you have listened to my episodes on Siamese Dream, Melancholy, Adore, I'm doing this one next, and then I know I've got to go back and do Gish as well. And I eventually have to cover pretty much every Pumpkins album, I'm sure. But I wanted to talk about this one because it's timely, it's important. And what leads us to this project is we've got the band going through the turmoil of post-Melancholy where Jimmy's out of the band and they do Adore, and it's just a hard turn left into a totally different sound. Synth, mellow, much more introspective, not the big guitar rock album. And a lot of people were confused. It wasn't for them. Not this guy. I loved it. I love Adore. As a diehard fan, I still think that's a beautiful album. So we didn't quite know what to expect, what the band was going to do next, because we have Eye on the Lost Highway soundtrack. We have Adore. We're like, what are they going to come out with? But signs were pointing to it would be another guitar-driven rock album, return back to that sound, because Jimmy Chamberlain was officially back in the band. And so we knew he was back. And it's the OG4. It's Darcy, it's James, it's Billy, it's Jimmy. And they're going to head into the studio and they start working on it. Well, Billy Corgan has always been a very high concept musician where he has not only albums in mind, but he has these massive stories and plot lines and things that are like musicals, like theater, like opera, rock opera. This is a guy who grew up in the time of Kiss and David Bowie and Black Sabbath and these bands that had these really large, sprawling bodies of work. And they would create not just rock albums, but entire theatrical elements to their music. So of course it stays with you, and when you get to be a position of popularity, and you can start calling the shots, you can come up with these huge things. Like Melancholy was a big risk, a double album that was like unheard of at the time. I mean, Guns N' Roses had done a double album, but when they said they were going to do it, I think that the record companies were like, I don't know. And look, it really has stood the test of time as one of the biggest double albums of all time, and especially the 90s. But so Billy has the idea again. Now we've got Jimmy back. The whole band's together again. We're going to do another double album. It's going to be huge, and it's got this massive plot and story behind it. And basically it's, about a rocker named Zero, based on kind of the caricature from the Melancholy days, that then speaks to God, is communicated through God, to God through the radio, and here's a message that he's going to now change his name to Glass. And he's going to change the name of the band to the Machines of God. So it's Glass and the Machines of God. And the fans of the band are called the Ghost Children. So there's this whole kind of operatic musical element to this story. And this is the concept that he's got. And he's thinking, all right, well, when we go on tour again with the whole band, it's going to have costumes, it's going to have elements, theatrical pieces. We're going to really play into these characters because of the fame and the way that he was treated by the press and fans and expectations. He was really wanting to communicate, all right, well, then let's just go over the top with these big rock characters, and we'll dress in these styles and outfits. So that was the plan. So they began working on the songs, the OG4, and then they take a little break in the writing. they go on this kind of short mini tour, the Arising Tour of 1999, and I believe they play 9 different venues, and it's all of them together. And when they come out the other end of this little run of shows, Darcy quits the band. She leaves. She wants to go be an actress now. She's no longer with the Pumpkins. So where does the concept go? The whole thing is not going to work now because one of the original people are gone out of the band now. So now it's like, well, we have to have somebody come in and play the bass. We're no longer the 4 of us. We can't do this idea and this vision. And the label's not being supportive. They're not being helpful at all. They're already really weary of Machina, and because of the way they felt about Adore, and that they, right now in this time, nu metal is on the rise. And this album, Machina, The Machines of God, has got, it's got rock, but it's got a lot of artistic choices, creative, out of the box ideas, different sounds. Machina really does do a good job of describing that sound. That's why I do like calling it Machina, because it has this cyber, mechanical, proto rock, proto cyber. It's just got something about it. It's very industrial in the crunch of the guitars. There's a lot of sounds in there that are very machine-like to me, and so I think it's such a fitting title. The label isn't being very supportive. They're definitely not going to let him do a double album. It's only going to be one. So all of this plotting and planning to come up with this rock opera, this big ass story about glass and communing with God, these stories, the characters like June, and there's all these elements that he has that almost became a reality in a cartoon that was going on at this time as well with Sony. And I remember seeing those clips. Oh, we'll get into that in a little bit. So there's the idea. Darcy's out of the band. Label's not being supportive. So it's like, well, what the fuck are we going to do? We're going to use some of the songs that we wrote and we worked on. We're going to scrap a lot of them. We're going to get back in the studio and we're going to finish this album and we're going to release it in February of 2000. And then they release it. They tour on it. And at this point in time, they bring in Melissa Oftemar, and she comes in from Hole. She comes in and plays bass with the Pumpkins during this era, and they go on tour, and she's in the music videos now. And, the label just still isn't happy. So by the time the Pumpkins want to put out Machina II, they're like, nope, they don't want to do it. They don't want to help release. They don't want to support this thing. So the band prints 25 copies on vinyl. That's it, 25. Can you imagine owning one of the original 25? I mean, that has to be one of the most valuable things in the Pumpkins community to own. Only 25 existed, but one of them goes to Q101, and the band encourages the fans and the people that have them. They say, hey, upload all that vinyl music, like record it and put it on the internet and give it away for free. That's what we want you to do. Because they were like, fuck the record company. They're not going to let us put it out there. So we're going to give it out there for free. So all of us went to computers and we went and downloaded Machina II, The Friends and Enemies of Modern Music, got that downloaded. And depending on where you were downloading from, it was different because some turntables were recording at like a slightly faster speed, I think it was. So some copies that were circulating on the internet just sounded a little bit faster, a little higher pitched than others. And there were some rips that were really bad. There were some rips that were better quality. I think that over the years, people were doing everything they could to like really clean them up and make them something that we could enjoy. But I brought them here. We're not going to cover this album. I brought my original downloaded discs. You can see this is the old school. Like this isn't even like a, this is like a, I think I got this on from my engineering friend. This is like a verbatim Data Life Plus CDR right here. This literally was from the U of I campus. And I remember going with my friend Kent Spillner. I went to his computer lab and he helped me download these. And I have my own little writing on the cover. It says the Smashing Pumpkins, Machina II, The Friends and Enemies of Modern Music, Disc 1, Disc 2. I have all the tracks written out as I knew them to be from what the descriptions were on there. And yeah, that's how we got it. So it's such an unusual thing to have this album, Machina, they tour on it, and then you just get a bunch. And then the band is over by like spring of that year. I can't remember exactly. They broke up in 2000, and it was like, that was it. That was the end of the Smashing Pumpkins, my favorite band of all time. I was heartbroken, and it was such a crazy ending to it all. It was like I'd been loving everything this band had put out and gone through the heartbreak of Jimmy being kicked out and Jonathan Melvoin dying and all the trauma of the melancholy. And then we're on Adore now, and I'm starting and going off to college, and I'm growing up with the band. Now I'm in the middle of college, and my favorite band is breaking up just after I saw them come through U of I. I saw them on the Canopy Club. They came to U of I and played the Canopy Club in this really small venue on my college campus. I don't think I have a ticket from that, but I did find my ticket from the Smashing Pumpkins at Elliott Hall of Music, which is at Purdue University. I don't know if you can see that, but this says April 18th, 2000. I still have my ticket stub for this that was in my collection box of Pumpkins memorabilia. I have quite a lot, by the way. So that was my ticket. I'd seen them twice in the year 2000, and then they break up. And it was like all we had was Machina is the studio album, and then you have these songs that you're trying to get off the internet, and then it's like, I guess that's the end of the band. I guess I don't get any more music from them. And, you know, Zwan would happen. Billy Corgan would release solo albums. James would release solo albums. And, you know, Jimmy was doing his own thing, and then it wouldn't be until, 2006 or 2007 that we get a return in some form of the Pumpkins again with Zeitgeist, and then on and on and on. But anyway, this album, let's get into Machina, the Machines of God, that opens with The Everlasting Gaze. This song is heavy. It rocks. I love it. I love the a cappella part in the middle when he says, "We all want to hold in the everlasting gaze." I love that part of the song. This sound of this song was achieved because they were recording the distorted guitar through a small crate practice amp. That's why it's this really gritty, crunchy guitar sound on The Everlasting Gaze. The original title of this song was actually Disco King, which is pretty funny. I can't imagine this song being called Disco King. But The Everlasting Gaze is much more of, this is a frontman of a band, songwriter, who is now looking at things from a further point of view, not the teenage angst or whatever he had gone through growing up or writing for that kind of audience. This was kind of looking at humanity, much more spiritual, what we all endure as a species, what we go through. And it was just more contemplative and looking at it from that vantage point. But super heavy song. And it was our first single, but it wasn't meant to be. It drops in, December of 1999. They dropped the single, the music video. It was rushed. The label demanded. This song was not supposed to be a single off of the album. But in 1999, what's popular? Limp Bizkit, Korn, nu metal is. So the label hears this song and they're like, please, please, please release this heavy track because we think it's going to click. And he agrees to do it. And the video that you see is they were on tour. They're somewhere in Europe. They get an abandoned building. And this whole thing is rushed together super fast. They're in it's this green floor, and he's got that long kind of black outfit on, and they're smashing their instruments in it. And it's really the first time we see Melissa Oftermar in the band playing in the video. But this video was rushed together. It was done, I think, in a day. Jimmy Chamberlain is sick during the video shoot. He had a 3-hour massage before shooting, and it kind of stirred up lots of toxins in his body. And so he wasn't feeling good, and it was like a really difficult day. I think he hurt his hand. Just not a pleasant experience. And, Billy Corgan throws his guitar through the ceiling, just goes for it because they're in this abandoned building and has no idea what's going to happen, if he's going to electrocute himself or whatever it is. But it's a great video, even though Billy Corgan had always not really enjoyed videos that were just bands playing in the video. He had always wanted it to be more of a medium to tell a story, to make it more cinematic, to make it interesting. You can cut to shots of the band, but as you can see from their history of videos up until this point, it was always important to have more going on. well, because this is such a rush job, it's like, okay, we'll do just a performance video, but we at least got to do something interesting like smash our instruments at the end. But this is the first single that we get. It's rushed to the front lines because of the heavy appeal. And immediately I was like, oh, holy shit. After Adore, we're now going to be having a super rocking heavy album. But what we would end up getting is something that goes in a lot of different directions. It's got slower, more mellow songs. It's got stuff that harken back to what was going on in Adore with some of the synth. And then there's even things in there that sound like they could have been cuts from the Melancholy days. There's a lot of stuff happening on this album that's really great and really interesting. And it kind of had always made us wonder if they had been given the opportunity to go in and do Machina the way that Billy Corgan had seen it originally. If Darcy hadn't left the band, what would that album have sounded like? What kind of things would be put into it? But what we got was this one, and it has this amazing art by Vasily Kalinov. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. He did all the artwork for this. And here's my original one. If you're listening to the show, I have my original copy right here. As soon as I pulled it out, this thing plopped out from the inside, and I can't believe it's still in there. It's basically like the Smashing Pumpkins other titles available. It's just this little slip of paper that tells you all the things that you could go buy of the bands. But you open it up, and it's just got this great artwork from this artist, Vasily Kalinov. And, just beautiful work inside, shows like alchemy and magic and spirituality, and it just has this really interesting kind of feel, like science and numbers and ancient mystics, and it feels kind of biblical in a way, kind of ancient civilizations and spiritual, all one universal meanings. But that is what the Machines of God looks like. We open up with the Everlasting Gaze, just an absolute crushing song. And then we get to Raindrops and Sun Showers, or Raindrops + Sun Showers. I've always said Raindrops and Sun Showers. This is one of those songs that, because it opens up with rain, anytime it's raining, I think of this song. There's a lot of songs that pop in my head when it rains, and I think of a rain song. I even made a video about all of those songs. Of course, Blind Melon's No Rain, or Red Rain by Peter Gabriel, or Rain When I Die by Alice in Chains. But this song is definitely one of the high ones for me because I'm a diehard Pumpkins fan. So I always hear the words of this song when it rains. But this is this song to me, because of the synth and the pacing and the movement behind it, as soon as you hear this song, you go, that's a little reminiscent and echoey of Adore. It feels like it could have been something that started to come together during the Adore sessions or right afterwards. Now we get to Stand Inside Your Love, which was released as a single and was intended to be the first single off of this album. It had a music video, very artistic and beautiful. And this is a love song. This is a love song that Billy Corgan writes for his, at the time, girlfriend, Yelena Yemchuk. And she is, they're in a relationship together. He's gone on record to say, yeah, it's really one of the only straightforward love songs I've ever written. He came up with this, who wouldn't stand inside your love? That lyric popped in his head, and it just kind of came together very easily and quickly. And it's a great song. And this is what was intended to be the first single to be released to the public. And this is where the record label was like, no, we need you to do something really intense and heavy and not this. And then you get to see the music video, which is also very avant-garde, black and white. It opens with an Oscar Wilde quote. It says, "The mystery of love is greater than the mystery of death," on the title card in the beginning. And then everything's black and white. Jimmy, Billy, James, Melissa, they're all in this, at least all the men are. I know they're all in these black leather outfits. There's big gowns, big sprawling outfits. There's a lot of sharp contrast. There's this bacchanal kind of this scene of indulgence, and there's this, kind of gross leader who's calling upon servants, and they're bringing in a woman, and he's rubbing his nipple. And that actor, who's in this video, who plays that part, the guy who's rubbing, you'd see him in other movies, especially. You'd know him the most for Borat. He's in the Borat movie. But this guy's in the video. And I can't remember who directed the music video. I feel like it was somebody well known at the time, but I'm drawing a blank on that. Anyway, but that is the music video that is released for Stand Inside Your Love. I love this song. It's an incredible song. And that there was nothing about that music video that didn't feel like it was absolutely the kind of band that I had known from Adore, kind of this gothic, more, auteurs, films, cinephiles that had this kind of like, everything about this seemed so much more intellectual. There was something about this that seemed like we were tapping into a really much more grown up and sophisticated band. Oscar Wilde quotes and a music video that's literally based on kind of the style and drawings of the Oscar Wilde play Salome, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But that's what it was. So it has this sophistication. I'm in college and I'm like, yeah, this is like exactly where I'm headed right now as a fan, and I'm glad they are as well. So I was loving every minute of it. Oh, it was directed. I have it right here. Created the videos look together with English director W.I.Z. So that was the director's name, Wiz, but W.I.Z. was the director's name. All right. Then we get to Eye of the Morning. This is radio. Play my favorite song. That is that part that just echoes and echoes and echoes. And this is such a great song. I've considered over the years, like I would love to do like a cover of it, an acoustic version of it. I really, really do love this song. And I've read that what it really is about is this is the piece in the story of the original Machina story, the glass and the ghost children, the glass and the machines of God. That this is the moment where God is speaking to Zero, who will change his name to Glass. This is speaking to him through the radio, and this is where it all begins, and this is part of that original story. So I don't know if that's true or if that's just been cobbled together over the years, or what the intention was, but at least we have little glimmers and elements of the story that are happening through this album, and we wouldn't know that until much later. Then we get on to the Sacred and Profane, which becomes the name of their final tour. That was the one that I went and saw at Canopy Club and also at Elliott Hall of Music at Purdue. And that's really the end of the Smashing Pumpkins after the Sacred and Profane tour. This song to me, again, has echoes of Adore. It has the guitar, but there's something like, you're all a part of me now. There's something about that and the way that the distorted guitar that's kind of, there was, even on the slower songs, the more ballady songs in this, there's always these elements behind it, those machine-like gritty sounds that is really consistent through the album that I wasn't expecting. I remember on the first listen through, it was a little bit of an ear adjustment. And that's often how it was as a Pumpkins fan. It was like every album was never a retread of what they would do before. It was like a completely different experience. And not a lot of bands do that. Like if you're a diehard Foo Fighters fan or a Green Day fan, or even a band like Pixies, these albums still very, very much sound like what that band would make. But I got to be honest, and you may disagree with me, but the Smashing Pumpkins, it was like every album you were like, oh, okay. We go from, psychedelic, guitar-driven Gish that's like, got a lot more of like the jammy rock songs, and then we get to Siamese Dream, which is just the guitar tone is just so laser focused and fat and thick, and then we get to Melancholy, which has got everything from metal to like unusual pop songs and 1979. We're going all over the place. Then Adore, and now Machina. I mean, the entire run through the 90s of the Smashing Pumpkins just really does switch gears. It's them because of Billy's voice. It's them because there's this Pumpkins aesthetic. There is, but it's always a new beginning at this time. And I wasn't ready the first listen through. You know, it was like one of those ones where you're listening through and you're like, okay, I like this one. This one's weird. This one's not working for me. And then the more you spend time with it over the years, I mean, I grew to love it very early on, but now I can't think of it any other way. It's been 25 years, and this is the album that I know it. And even listening to this big masterpiece of this all put together, that was difficult. Not difficult to like in a bad way, but like my ears were like, oh no, this song doesn't go here. It goes in the order that I've been listening to for 25 years. But I am so grateful for this still, because as a diehard, I wanted to know what that was supposed to be. I've always wanted to experience Machina 1 and Machina 2 in a track sequential order and hear it like that. So this was worth it. People have said, oh, you know, it's too expensive. Yeah, it was expensive. It was. But you know what? There's like so many records in here. I don't even know how many. And for somebody who loves the band as much as I do, did I wish it didn't cost as much? Sure. But I got to be honest with you. When I love something that much, there's no band that I would do this for. I mean, I wouldn't shell out money for just any band's big collections. You kind of choose one or two, I think, in life that you're like, I will spend it. I have made the investment in time of energy and love of this band. And you may disagree. I get it. And I'm definitely not money bags. People always misunderstand and think that I'm making a ton of money off of social media. I am not. I still have a full-time day job. I am not. Those ideas that anybody out there has about influencers making money, I am not on my channels promoting, supplements or, some kind of big promo thing that would pay me tons and tons of money. I've had a few opportunities here and there to do some stuff, but this was the kind of thing that when I saw the price tag, I was like, you know what? I want it. I want it really bad. So I'm going to get it. And I did. This was not given to me for free. I ordered it and I waited and I got it. So worth it. But let's get back to the track list. Now we get to Try. A really bubbly, uplifting, kind of poppy song. And you hear the lyric Pop-Tart. It's just got this thing. Now here's the funny thing. There is a music video that accompanied this that got banned on MTV because it was this director who made a short 15-minute film about this man and woman living on the streets, struggling on drug addiction, heroin addiction. She's pregnant. They're having to engage in theft and prostitution, and they're trying to score their drugs, and she's pregnant, and it's just harrowing and gritty. It's like, oh my God, it's so sad and disturbing. So they made this video of this song, cuts to shots of Billy singing, and meanwhile it's intercut with this story that's going on to the music. So here's this uplifting, like feel-good song, and it's the most tragic thing ever. They get to the bathroom, they take the drugs, they OD. They pass out, and while they're passed out, there's like a picturesque, like perfect normal life that is being dreamed of like the white picket fence, the perfect kids, the perfect house, the perfect family. And when he comes to, she's gone, and he finds out that she's been rushed off in an ambulance, and he meets her at the hospital at the end, and she's lost the baby, and he's holding her hand, and it's just like, and I think in the film, it even gets worse than that. I've never seen the film, but I think it's even more tragic. But this video was like banned from MTV because it was just too disturbing. It was too much to air that this was going on. But I think you can go see the whole thing now on YouTube if you've ever wanted to see it. But this is a excellent song. I love Try. Now, Heavy Metal Machine. This one I've learned over the years I think is a little bit polarizing because some people love it and some people don't really like it at all. I would say when I first heard Machina and I heard this song, I remember seeing the title Heavy Metal Machine on there, and as a metal fan, I was like, oh, sweet, what's this going to sound like? And of course, it's the most Smashing Pumpkins sounding heavy metal machine, that grungy, heavy, deep riff. No, I wouldn't say grungy. Grungy that's incorrect. This is not a grunge band. that kind of dirty distortion that's just really low tuned. Lots of low tunings on this album. This is where we start to hear this for the first time, that then would come up later with Zeitgeist and further albums, but we're really getting into some deep, heavy guitar tunings on this album. And Heavy Metal Machine is one of them. And I like this song a lot, but I'll tell you what took it to the next level for me. It was going to go see it live on that tour. I remember liking it on the album, but then when I saw them perform it live, it kicked it up a level, it kicked it up a notch, and I appreciated it even more. So now when I hear that song, I really, really do enjoy it because I got a chance to see it live, and that energy has always stayed inside that song. Now we come to This Time. This Time is kind of a love letter to the band that is breaking up. They know in these sessions that they're going to release this part 2, tour, and then they're done. They know it's the end. Darcy left. They have Melissa in to fill in for the tour. But once this is all done, they've all agreed it's time to walk away. And This Time, incredible song. If you read the lyrics, this crashing down, all of this is about Billy looking at his relationship with the band, with them, and how it's all falling apart, and it's time to say goodbye, and it's time to close this chapter of his life. And that's exactly where it was at the time, and that's what this song feels like. It feels like the end of an era. And it was. It was. The Pumpkins are still rocking the world and selling out shows and playing unbelievable live shows. I've been so lucky over the past 3-4 years. I've seen them like 12 times because I'll go and, they'll come to LA and then I'll get the opportunity to see them here and there and the other. I've seen them so much in the past 3 or 4 years because they've just toured over and over and over again. But back then, much more sparse. I got to see them those last 2 times, and then it's coming to an end. And when you listen to This Time, you can hear this is the end of this band. The imploding voice. This is I love the way that this guitar, again, this was so much more experimental with what he was doing in the production of the song. I don't really have anything to say about the imploding voice other than just the way that guitar comes in, the super deep low tunings and the pacing and the rhythmic elements of this song. Just super heavy, deep guitars, interesting tones. There's that proto-cyber sound in this album, and it's a great tune. Now we're getting a title of a song, Glass and the Ghost Children, a very long one, 9+ minutes. I don't remember exactly how long the runtime is on this one, but it's almost like 2 different songs with this interesting audio recording in the middle of it. But it's not one of those pieces of music that they do sometimes where it's like a song that it spans, start to finish, and it's a very long song. This feels like 2 chapters separated by an intermission in a way. The first part feels like whenever I hear the opening of Glass and the Ghost Children, it feels like a David Lynch movie, like a Lost Highway or Blue Velvet, or there's something almost kind of like wandering, deserty, driving at night through a city skyline. There seems to be this kind of like skulking energy of darkness, and there's something is happening, and that goes on for the first half of the song, and then it drops out. We hear the plunking of the keys by Mike Garson, who has done a lot of the piano work for the Pumpkins over the years, has played with them live, and he's playing the La Do Machina, or I guess it would just be called La Do Machina. But he's playing that, plunking it, and there's this audio recording of Billy Corgan, kind of sounds like he's talking through maybe some counseling, or maybe it was just a thought that he had and he decided to record it. I don't know what the source of that audio is, but it speeds up, it slows down, it rewinds, it fast forwards. And it's him talking about how he's hearing the voice of God or that whenever he hears a voice in his head, he assumed it was God and he's acting out on those. But he was like, well, wait, maybe I'm insane and maybe it's not the voice of God. Maybe it's just me. And it's just kind of like self-reflecting. But this again plays into this Glass and the Ghost Children, Glass and the Machines of God, this story, this narrative of this bigger overarching piece of music that he had intended, and it exists here in this song. And then at the very end, as far as I know, this is a part in the story where the character of June has overdosed and she's in a hospital and she's having these elements of psychosis. The lyric that keeps repeating itself over and over again as she counted the spiders as they crawled up inside her. That's kind of a hallucination of this event that's happening. She's overdosed. She's in the hospital. She's losing her mind. He's witnessing the ravages of drugs on this person that he loves. And these are elements of that big, massive story that carry over into this album. Now we get to Wound. And this is probably my favorite song on this album, on Machines of God. There's something about this song that is just like arms up in the air, like this sense of freedom and life and uplifting. And I still am moved incredibly when I hear Wound. It is absolutely the guitar work, the way that it builds, the way he cries out with the lyrics. This is my favorite song on Machina, the Machines of God. This one's an interesting one. The Crying Tree of Mercury. It's a good song, but I'm going to shoot straight with you and be honest about one thing. And this is just my opinion. If this is your favorite song of all time, okay. That synthesizer is not my favorite. The sound of that synth has always not connected for me. The song itself is fine. I actually like where it goes. I like the changes. I like the melody. I like the song as a whole. It is that keyboard, the wah, 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 that tone. I don't know if you've ever clowned around on a keyboard with a ton of different patches and sounds. Like you have a massive Casio or you're on like some electric piano and you're pushing patches. And you're just going down the list. Here's piano. Oh, here's electric piano. Oh, here's glockenspiel. You know me. I love my glockenspiel. Then you're going through and you're like, oh, it's an organ. It's a jazz organ. You're going through. And then you start getting into like the weird synthy sounds. And you get to stuff that sounds, oh, this sounds very 80s or this sounds like very 70s or whatever these tones are. And then you hit something and it's this sound that's like, wah. It's like crying. And so you hear the song The Crying Tree of Mercury and you're like, that synthesizer does sound like crying. Kind of a wah, 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 wah. But I don't know what it is. It is the only song on this album that I have a hard time getting around that sound. And I might be the only one, but it's just that one. It's like I wish I could go and I could just take that keyboard preset and switch it over to just something. I don't know. That's just me. I'm usually not one to bring any kind of like, critical opinion. This is as my favorite band. I'm not usually the kind of person to say something that I don't like, but I can honestly shoot straight with you that keyboard sound, not my favorite. Otherwise, good song. All right. With Every Light. This one's sweet and feels like very much the disc 2 of Melancholy. It's got this nice little, kind of this rocking back and forth. It's got this kind of like sway to it. Something about the song feels comforting. It feels kind. It feels like, hey, maybe the band doesn't hate each other. Maybe they're going to get along and things are going to be okay. It feels like we're going to tie up this album. And that wouldn't be the case, even though With Every Light is so pleasant with the piano and the way that the sound, the atmosphere that's created on this song, it sounds like things are going to be okay with every light, but they definitely aren't. Blue Skies Bring Tears. This is an interesting one because I would say that this is probably one of the least listened to songs on the album according to the streams. And I would say Blue Skies Bring Tears is a fine song. There's a heavy version of it that's on Machina II and on this new release. And that one's kind of like much more like it's a similar lyrics, almost the same, but it's just a hard rocking version of the song. And there's something about this one that maybe since you're at the end of the album and it was 15 tracks long, you're kind of like brought it down. The energy is brought down so much that there's something about this song that has not ever been one of those ones that I seek out. The bass is kind of rolling up at you and it's kind of like scooting you along a little bit, but it feels like just not quite the energy that you are ready to close out this album with. I think it's an enjoyable song, but there is something about Blue Skies Bring Tears that has not been a song that I've returned to a lot over the years. And I don't know why that is. I don't necessarily have a real clear reason, but I would say that right here at the end of Machina, both The Crying Tree of Mercury and Blue Skies Bring Tears, these are the ones where I'm starting to kind of be like, I don't know how I feel about these songs. I don't know if they're really connecting for me. I don't know if they're resonating for me. And that's just me personally. There's a lot of fans out there, a lot of people who love the Smashing Pumpkins or diehard fans and love this album. And you might be saying, oh, you kidding me? Crying Tree of Mercury, absolutely love that song. Or Blue Skies Bring Tears, I love that song. And absolutely. But for me, those are some of the ones on the album that I have been known to skip over the years. And then you just kind of get in the habit of not spending a lot of time with those songs. I did notice something that was very interesting. They released the Machines of God remastered edition on Spotify, and they totally changed up and added an extra song on the remastered version on Spotify. So for those of you who are only ever experiencing this album online and streaming, this is not the order of Machina. It's been changed a little bit. They basically they added in Speed Kills, which was a B-side. Well, it's on Machina II, and it's later on another CD single, which I'll show these in a second. They add in Speed Kills, and they switch up the order. They have Blue Skies Bring Tears at the end. They have, Age of Innocence. It's earlier with the remix version. So there's something about the run of the end of the streaming version that is not the same as the original CD. I have it right here. It did not end like that. So anyway, look how bad my eyes are. I can barely see. 15 tracks on the original Machina album, and on the streaming one it says 16 because they threw Speed Kills in there. Oh well, extra Pumpkin songs. And then we close out with the Age of Innocence. The end of Machina, the Machines of God. This one has energy behind it. This was a good closer for this record. It has that, that pulsing hesitation, that whole energy is really walking out. And we know that the Age of Innocence was over, long over. Now, since we've gotten through the album, I did bring a couple extra things up here with me. I have the CD single for Stand Inside Your Love right here with the same artist artwork on the front. And this was on the B side of this was Speed Kills. And this is a different version of Speed Kills than what it ends up on Machina II, Friends and Enemies of Modern Music. Then I also, like I showed you earlier, I have Machina, my original CD. Then this one right here is the Everlasting Gaze. This is basically, it must have been like an EP. I got it because on here it says Everlasting Gaze, I Am One, Disarm, Starla, Bullet with Butterfly Wings, Medallia of the Gray Skies, which is off of Airplane Flies High, and then Waiting. So I don't remember what the story was behind this. It was just kind of like a bunch of their hit songs on this little mini CD, but I bought it primarily so that I could have that song Waiting, which is an excellent song. Then there's this sleeve, this CD sleeve. It didn't even come in a real case. I remember I had to make this into a case. The CD sleeve is called Still Becoming, and it had, gosh, my eyes are terrible, you guys. It had Hope, Blissed and Gone, Apathy's Last Kiss, Mayonnaise Acoustic, and I from Lost Highway soundtrack. These are all coming out here. All these little releases are coming out as the band is ending. So I was buying every little thing I had. And then finally, I have the Smashing Pumpkins Greatest Hits. And of course, you bought this because the second disc was called Judas O. a collection of B-sides and rarities. And you had Airplane Flies High, which we already had that one. Then you had Because You Are, Slow Dawn, Believe, My Mistake. Oh, sorry, I missed Lucky 13 up here. Lucky 13 kicks this off, which is one of the coolest songs off of Machina II. Then you have My Mistake, Marquise and Spades, Here's to the Atom Bomb, Sparrow, Waiting, which is on that other CD single. Then Saturnine, Rock On, Set the Rated Jerry, Winter Long, Soot and Stars, Blissed and Gone, those were on this thing. Anyway, all the things that I have in my collection, I have the Machina shirt on today. I have my original Machina IIs. I have the concert tickets. One of these days I'll have to do a whole video showing all the things that I've collected. I have a box just filled with all the Smashing Pumpkins CDs and singles and bootlegs and Viewphoria and Earphoria and, all the things that I've collected over the years. And that collection has grown tremendously over the past few years as I've gone to see them so many times. But that was Machina, the Machines of God. I apologize if I was a little bit spacey on this one. I wanted to do this episode so bad, and I knew I was kind of running out of runway to get this recorded and released. And I really wish I had sat down and spent more time kind of like dissecting the songs. But honestly, I feel like it's more important for me to share the story of how Machina came to be, where we are today, and just some of the emotional reactions and feelings that I had back then about growing up with the band and seeing them come apart, because it wasn't easy to see them end. It was hard. It was hard. It was my favorite band, and there really didn't seem to be any sign of them getting back together again. And it was a hard thing to take. I was in the middle of college. I would be getting married soon, moving to LA soon, and I just didn't know what was going to happen. And all I could really hold on to was this band that had given me 5 albums and then these extra online songs that I could get, and that was it. That was the end of the run. And when I listened to this, I spent a lot of time kind of playing it back over the past few weeks, getting ready for the record to come in, listening to it again, re-experiencing it, hearing just the different unusual sounds, reminding of the feeling of where I was, what was going on at the time, camping out to get tickets at the Canopy Club at U of I. We stayed in line all night long. Because I mentioned earlier, Canopy Club, I'll show some pictures. I have some from a disposable camera that I took inside, and I took pictures. I have a couple from the stage in the Canopy Club. And me and Jamie camped out the whole night. And our friends actually even brought us a tent to sleep in because it was raining, it was cold, it was wet. And so we had this little tent that we could stay warm in and stay dry, and stayed up all night, got the tickets the next morning. And then I believe I had to go to work at the restaurant job. I was waiting tables, and I heard after we left, Billy went to the local record store and met with fans and signed things. And I missed that, which I was bummed about that. But anyway, just this takes me back to seeing those live shows, one at Purdue, one at Canopy Club, my friends, Mark and Kevin, and running around with them at the time. It just brings me back to a very, very specific time. And when I listen to this album, I am taken right back to the year 2000, before I am leaving that chapter of being a kid in school. Now I'm a college kid, and I'm like, what is life going to be? I'm about to embark on something totally different. And looking back on it now, it was very fitting that something I loved so much from my youth was coming to an end. It was kind of important. I didn't want it to happen that way, but it was important for me. Not that the band broke up because of me. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it kind of had to happen that way for me. I had to let that book close so that I could reopen it in another way down the road. This band will always be my number one. And it's because of what they meant to me as a teenager, how they influenced my guitar playing, how they influenced all the ways I think about songwriting and music, kind of my lens that I look at the world. And when there's been reunions and reformations and James coming back and Jeff in the band, then Jeff's out of the band, and all the iterations that have come, I'm just grateful that I can still see a lot of these songs played live. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to interact with the members of this band. I have felt so lucky that in my adult life that these heroes of mine, I've had the chance to interact with them more than once. I literally just saw James Iha last night on accident. I went to go see the band Shudder to Think at the Lodge Room, and I love Shudder to Think. I love them, and I'm hoping to get somebody from that band on my podcast for sure. But I went to go see this show, and the people that I knew would be there would be cast members from the state, because Craig Wedren, his sister, is married to Thomas Lennon, and they are, they've all been working alongside Craig for many years. Craig Wedren from Shudder to Think helped write the music for Wet Hot American Summer. They've done stuff on the series Yellow Jackets. And I knew there would be a lot of the people from the state. And sure enough, I walk in, there's Thomas Lennon. He's right there. His wife's over there. And I go up to say hi to him, and he's standing next to James Iha. And I say hi to James. And I was like, hey, it's me. It's Jacob. Shake his hand. And just kind of casually, we hung out a little bit. I wasn't like hanging out with him, but I was with all these guys from the state, and James is there. And it was just wild to me, because I was like, if you were to tell 13, 14-year-old Jacob that one day he'd just be casually kind of hanging out with James Iha at a concert, my mind would have been blown. And you know what? It still was a little bit blown. I was still like, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. But also, that wasn't the first time he and I have met. We met about 3 times now. And Jimmy and I the same. And Billy and I only once. But, Jack Bates has been on Waterproof Records before. He's their touring live bassist, and he's been playing with the band for many years now. And he and I are great friends. So I feel very fortunate for my interactions. And like I said about buying this record set, it was worth it. Worth it to me. Worth it to have Machina in that order that I've always wanted to hear. Oh, I almost forgot to talk about the animated series. So there was a short window where the story of Glass and the Ghost Children, Glass and the Machines of God, was going to get greenlit as an animated series on Sony, a Sony animated series. And there were some episodes, there was like some footage of what this story was going to be, but done in like an animated form. And when this album was coming out, there was all sorts of like Easter eggs and websites that the band was like pointing you to, like, go look at this obscure site and you'll unlock this clue over here. And it was like really one of the first times that the internet was being used like this to kind of explore concept albums, unlock secrets and stories and narratives and tales. And these were things that were happening. And I remember seeing the footage of this animated show, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be unbelievable. And it totally got scrapped and never saw the light of day. And I think if you search out there, you could find some clips and footage of these trailers and these renderings that were being toyed with at the time. But yeah, it's just a shame that it didn't get to come out the way it was. But I believe that Billy Corgan was trying to be like, hey, with this animated show, I'm going to try to show you what it was that I was trying to accomplish with this album. I'm going to try to show you the rock opera that I had in my mind and make it complete. So a lot of ambitions and dreams for this project that never got to be, but it still left behind a wonderful album. So that has been Machina, the Machines of God. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, want to say thank you to Pantheon Podcast. Thanks for helping me grow this show. The audience is growing, and there's more and more of you finding me every day, and I'm just grateful that I have a place to sit and share and talk to you guys about music. And I have some exciting guests on the horizon that should be coming in soon, so that's going to be awesome. Also, don't forget to check out my link, distrokid.com/VIP/waterproof. Save yourself that 30% off your first year when you upload. So thank you again for joining me on Waterproof Records. I can't do this show without you, so make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're leaving comments, make sure you're sharing it with people, letting them know, spread the word, let people know, check out this amazing podcast that you enjoy so much, and let's help this audience grow bigger. So thanks for talking with me. I will see you next time. Bye.
Things are gonna change. I can feel it.
If this be that kind of party. I'm gonna